How are you guys doing today?
Hey, Caleb. I'm great. How are you?
Good. My name is Kayla Menifee, and today you are doing the Millionaires Club. Every day we'll meet with executives from around the world to do all the Millionaires Club activities. Oh yeah, and don't forget you can earn PS4, Xbox, Power Hands, Chick-fil-A, and all that stuff in the prize shop by commenting down below. Today's guests are Mr. Robbie Ficker and Miss Tanea McDaniel. Can you start us off with your quick presentation?
Absolutely. Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate the intro. Um, how's everyone doing? Can you hear me all right, Caleb? Is the audio coming through okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I can hear you.
Cool. So I'm going to share my screen here with you guys.
Okay.
And there we go. We're off and running. So how's everyone doing today? My name is Robbie, and I work in brand marketing for basketball at Converse. So Converse basketball. And before I kick off, I just want to kind of, lay a little bit of a foundation for the presentation that I'm going to walk you guys through. So the first thing is just that the theme of my presentation is going to be about storytelling and about the opportunity that storytelling provides, particularly when you look at what you want to do in your career, where you want to go, and how you engage with other human beings, whether it's in person, whether it's on a phone, whatever it may be. So first, a little bit of background around my career and where I started. So I grew up in a little town in New Hampshire, and I went to Sanborn Regional High School in New Hampshire, where I played basketball for 4 years. Basketball has always been a passion of mine. I graduated from Sanborn, and I went to the University of Massachusetts, where I graduated in 2013. After graduating from the University of Massachusetts, I went to a place called IMG Academy, which is a big sports campus in Florida, where they play all sorts of sports: basketball, baseball, tennis, golf. For those of you that are paying attention to, the WNBA and the NBA and what they're doing to come back to their seasons, the WNBA is actually planning to resume their season at IMG Academy in Florida, and that's the place that I worked for a couple of years before coming back up to Boston, where I am right now, working for Converse. And at Converse, I've held a couple of different roles. I've worked in customer service. I started in customer service, actually. I've worked in brand marketing for our energy product. So if you think about the pinnacle stores, if you've heard of Undefeated or Kith, or any of those really high profile stores and collaborations with Off-White and Virgil Abloh or Don C. Those are the types of projects that I worked on. And now I was asked to do brand marketing for basketball when we relaunched that in last year. And so the other thing that I want to talk about before I get too much further in my presentation is just that, I love what I do, and I think it's important for the audience to understand, for you guys to understand that it's never been better to do, to make a living doing the things that you're passionate about and doing the things that you love. And if there's one lesson that I want everyone to take away from my presentation, it's that if you have the choice between doing what you love and doing something that will make you a lot of money, you always want to choose, wherever possible, to do the thing that you love. Because if you love something enough and you do it for a living, you'll do it well enough and you'll put enough energy in that you'll eventually make money doing it. But it hardly ever works the other way. Hardly anybody ever starts working and doing something as a career because of the money, and then eventually ends up liking what they do. It's always good to do what you're passionate about. So if there's one lesson that you can take from that, or take from my presentation, it would be that. So a little bit more about me. Basketball is my life. I've always loved basketball. It's one of the most global and democratic sports that you can play. To me, it's artistic. It's poetry. It's just a fascinating game. And I've always been a gym rat. I've always been a person that loved just shooting and playing pickup games whenever possible. Always have a basketball in my hand. I've also always been fascinated by human behavior, and I think basketball is an interesting view into how human beings behave, which plays a role in storytelling. In high school, I played basketball. These are a couple of shots from me and my team, and it's really where I learned about engaging with other human beings and about human behavior. Basketball teaches you a lot, and for me, it really helped me understand empathy and self-awareness, right? Which I think are two very important skills, actually, that can be developed, right? The first empathy or the first self-awareness is understanding who you are, right? Who you are, who you want to be foundationally. And the second piece is empathy, which is the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes and understand what they're going through. And so basketball is a very good vehicle for understanding that. So I love basketball. I didn't want basketball to end. I didn't want sports to end for me in high school. Even though I thought it would, right? So everybody, you guys at your age, Caleb, Omni, you may want to, you may love the game so much and you may want to play the game for a living at a high level, which is an awesome dream to have. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so I didn't think I would, at this age, I didn't think I would have the opportunity to stay connected to basketball. Because I thought it ended when I stopped playing. But the cool thing about sports is that there's so many other avenues and so many other connection points around the game. At this point in my career, I was looking at potentially doing something in athletic training that would allow me to stay close to basketball, or doing something in sports journalism that would allow me to stay close to sports. And ultimately, I decided that I wanted to go into sports business. And because that's where my passion was. It was that intersection between between the sport and the human behavior element that I talked about, right? So understanding why people do what they do, and that's what attracted me to business. And that's how I ended up at Converse. So I have had the opportunity to work at Converse for 5 years. I've had some really cool experiences with the Converse brand through basketball, and opportunities to remain connected to the culture of basketball. And that's how I think Converse in particular is unique. We as a brand want to serve as a canvas for youth progress. And we do that through the creative culture of basketball, right? So there's, if you think about, sorry, let me get to my next slide. If you think about, for those of you who know who Overtime is, right? Converse basketball. Caleb, Omni, you guys know who Overtime is? The social media platform, Overtime Larry, Overtime Chloe. Do you guys know who those guys are? So we've had an opportunity to partner with Overtime, which is a social media platform or media platform, and do some events with them. But essentially what they are is just a community of basketball players and people connected to the culture of basketball, and people driving the culture of basketball forward. And they're storytellers. And where there are stories, there are so many opportunities to connect. Human beings are attracted to stories, right? So I've had opportunities to do high school showcase basketball tournaments and do personalization of basketball with really fantastic artists, or basketball sneakers with really fantastic artists. I've had an opportunity to go to All-Star Weekend in Chicago and really engage with musicians and artists and fashion designers. And those people are all part of the basketball community too. And that's the cool thing to understand. There's so many opportunities to be a part of that. And so what I'd like to get across to this group is that those opportunities translate into careers. They translate into career opportunities for young people, right? So product designers and merchandisers and salespeople all have a role in telling the stories, telling stories about our product, telling stories about basketball product, telling stories about basketball players, telling stories about brands. A great example that I have is a product designer that I worked with who had an opportunity to build a collection of basketball shoes that were inspired by all the major cities and teams in the NBA. So if you think about a Celtic sneaker or a New York Knicks sneaker, going back in time and looking at the history of the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics, and then bringing those details into the design of a sneaker. It's a really cool job to have. It's a really cool role to play in storytelling. You can tell stories about any product, any sport, any category, right? So a company like Nike has a division for basketball, a division for baseball, a division for football, a division for lifestyle, a division for tennis. All these different categories, and there are people whose job it is to storytell in each of those categories. You can tell stories in store, you can tell stories on social media, you can tell stories in a magazine, right? And there are experts at Converse and Nike that know how to do that, right? So there are people at Converse and Nike that need to know how to tell a story in a store when somebody walks in, or tell a story on social media when somebody scrolls on Facebook or Instagram. And then there are so many ways we engage externally, right? As Converse, we have agencies that help us craft these stories and tell these stories. We have partners like Overtime Media Partners that help us craft these stories and tell these stories. And so it's just about that creative culture of basketball. And if we Converse, if we provide our basketball community platform and create those stories together, we feel like people will be attracted to our brand. And so I think the visibility for you guys to know that you can be a part and help tell those stories at any level. You don't just have to be the one on the court. I think that's important. And some of the stories that I've been able to be a part of are pretty cool. So from a product perspective, the shoe you see on the left is our new performance basketball product, the All-Star Pro BB. And this version is a glow-in-the-dark version that was modeled off of a pair of Nike Kobe Bryant performance sneakers that he launched in 2010. And so to be a part of the storytelling around that product is very cool. And the product on the right is kind of a reintroduction of the sneaker that Dr. J wore, Julius Erving, when he played in the 1970s and 80s. So there's a lot of storytelling that goes into that as well. These are examples. And then there are athletes, right? So we have a couple of athletes, two that we've kind of introduced recently. The first is Kelly Oubre, right? So Kelly Oubre, for those of you that know, he's one of the fashion and style leaders in the NBA. He fits our brand very well because, again, we're interested in the culture of basketball, what happens on the court and what happens off the court. And him being a style leader, he has a lot of things to say with his expression through style. It's very cool to be connected to him. And there's a role to play. There's a role to play for the people in supporting him, telling his story through our brand. Natasha Cloud is another one. So she's a style leader and an activist off the court. She's got another fascinating story and a very strong voice, particularly in the times that we're in now. And it's great to be connected to her and to help her amplify her voice. And then Draymond Green is another athlete that we have. These are all dynamic individuals they're good basketball players, but they're as dynamic off the court in storytelling as they are on the court. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you guys. Again, I think the storytelling around basketball, as just to wrap it up, the storytelling around basketball and around sports in general just translates to so many opportunities to be connected to the game as you grow older, as you look to create a career for yourselves, as you look to earn a living. It's not all about what happens on the court. A very small percentage of people get the opportunity to keep playing on the court, which is great. But keep that relentless pursuit of, staying connected to the game in whatever way you can. And good things will come. Opportunities are out there and they're only growing. There are only more opportunities to stay connected to the game that you love, the sports that you love, and find a path for yourself there. And so, Caleb, that's all I have. I'm open to any and all questions that anybody would like to ask.
Well, back when you were talking about your high school, did you think you were headed to the NBA when you were in middle school and high school, and how good were you on the court?
That's a good one. When I was in middle school, I probably thought I still had a chance at the NBA. But as you get older and you move up, you realize what the level of competition really is, right? And you start looking outside, you start going to other games, you start seeing how good people really are. By the time I got to high school, I was pretty sure that I didn't have a chance at making the NBA. I thought I might be able to play in college. I was good enough probably to play a Division II or Division III college if I had really put work in the off season. But I think I took the right path. I went to a school where I didn't have a chance of making the team, but I had a chance to learn the business side of basketball and the business side of sports, which really set me up for my career. So yes, probably early on, I did think I was going to play there, and I still play a lot, but just for fun now, just for pickup and for networking.
Oh, okay. A lot of kids my age know that legends like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson wore Converse. But can you tell us what makes Converse great today and why we should still wear them?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about the two people you talked about that you just mentioned is that they are iconic in the history of basketball. People know who those guys are, and Converse was one of the first brands in the game of basketball. We grew up, Converse, the brand, we grew up as the sport of basketball evolved. We evolved with it. And I think that's important. Basketball is in our brand's DNA. And I think today, what we're trying to figure out is how to, again, storytell to you, Caleb, and to younger people about, what our history was, and do that in an interesting way, and how that translates to what we're going to do for the game of basketball moving forward. We have a role to play as Converse in how the game evolves moving forward. And again, it's by supporting basketball culture, right? So the music of basketball, the style of basketball, artists who are inspired by the sport in their art, those are the type of people that we most resonate with and we want to provide a platform for, because those are the people that push the game and the culture of the game forward and make it interesting. And so that would be the reason. That's the distinction that we've tried to create for ourselves, for Converse. And that's why we hope you guys are interested. We hope that you guys are attracted to our brand because we storytell around our community and the creative community and the creative culture of basketball.
Thank you for the response.
Absolutely.
That's all the questions I have. I was asking, is there anything that I didn't cover that you want to talk about?
No, I think that's everything. I know we may have time for other questions at the end, so I'll yield to that, and I'll send this back over. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Send that back to you. There you go.
Okay. Ms. McDaniel, do you have a quick presentation for us?
Yes, I do. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can you guys see my screen and hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you really good.
All right, perfect. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Tanea McDaniel, and I work at the NBA as a talent acquisition coordinator. So before I get into the careers at the NBA and how I got started at the NBA, I'm going to start off with a quick clip about uh, life at the NBA.
Wait, I think the audio isn't working. Or is it on? I can see the video, but I don't hear the audio.
Do you not hear the audio?
Mm-mm.
Let's try this again. All right. Can you hear the audio? Were you able to hear
It's
that?
it's loading. Okay, now play it. Mm-mm. I still can't hear anything.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started on the next slide. Okay. So the
Oh, they said.
NBA, are we all set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll skip over the video. I'll go ahead and let you know more about the NBA here. So the league
Okay.
office, we handle everything behind the business of the game. So the teams are totally independent of the NBA. And we have about 1,500 employees around the globe. A lot of people seem to think that because the NBA has a lot of teams, we have a lot of employees, but we only have 1,500 employees, two offices in the US, and we have offices across the globe, as you can see here on the map. So as a global sports and media business, the NBA is much more than basketball, and that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. And these are just some of the departments that we have at the NBA that support the game of basketball. So basketball strategy and analytics. So as a student athlete, you can use your basketball knowledge to help out this department here. So basketball strategy and analytics focuses on rule changes and improvements to the game and collecting stats and all the data that we use to share with the fans around the world. So you can help provide fans with statistics. Uh, I'm not too much of a basketball fan, but I know when I'm looking at research, points of the game is a big thing and how many rebounds. So you may not necessarily be playing the sport, but keeping track of the data is very important in basketball. We have marketing, which helps develop partnerships with different organizations around the world to help advertise the game. We have finance for those who love math. This may be a department for you because it focuses on business planning and creating business strategies to make sure that the NBA keeps running. We have information technology, um, which is a huge, huge, huge department here at the NBA, just because we need to be at the forefront of technology, especially now with all the entertainment and making sure we can stream the games live for everyone around the world. If you're interested in building systems or computers, IT would definitely be a department you may be interested in. And then lastly, we have HR, which is the department I work in. And I love working in human resources, mainly because I get to interact with every part of the organization. So I help hire people from marketing, finance, and we help provide information and solutions for all our employees around the globe. So these are just some of the careers that we have here at the NBA. I'm sure we have a position for any passion. So this is my career journey, and this is how I got to working at HR. So back when I was in seventh grade, I went to a middle school and high school combined. So I started in seventh grade, and I was at the same school up until 12th grade. And I actually studied science. So when I was in middle school, I thought I was going to be a doctor. Um, I graduated high school and decided to go to college, get my degree in psychology. Um, but then when I graduated from college, I realized I don't think I want to do science. I don't think I want to do psychology. So I decided to work in retail. I worked in retail for about 3 years as a manager, which was very exciting because I got to meet different people. But I realized that I wasn't really happy. And Robbie made an important point earlier: choose what you love instead of choosing the money route. And that's what I did. I wanted the money first. You graduate and you want to make money. But then I realized I truly wasn't happy. And I went back to school. So I went to Pace University and I got my MBA degree in human resource management actually last year. So I graduated last year, got my MBA degree, and I worked at Business Insider. I got an internship there after graduating. It was really great just learning about the human resources field. And that's one thing that I can say for middle school, high school, college. Make sure you take part in internships and doing different jobs so you learn and you see what you really love to do. And that'll help shape your career journey. So after leaving Insider, I applied to the NBA. And I've been working at the NBA from the start of this year. So not even a year yet, and I love it. Um, as you can see, my journey is still continuing on. And this one piece of advice that I would give is that you see the image on the left. Most people think success is just one easy path. You go from point A to point B to point C, and then here you go, you have success. But the picture on the right is really reality. So you see that arrow is really jumbled up toward the middle. You have downs and ups and twists and turns. That's what you should expect. So for me, my career journey wasn't flat and straight. I went to school, I worked, then I went back to school, I did retail, I thought I wanted to do science. It's okay to change a career path. It's never too late. It's never too late to change because nothing is straightforward. And I hope that everyone watching now, one piece that you take away is that nothing is straightforward. A lot of the times when you're young, you don't know what you want to do. Some people know what they want to do. It's okay if you don't. Just take full advantage of all the opportunities that come your way. And to end the presentation, I just want to give you guys a little insight on what the NBA is doing to combat racial and social justice issues that are happening in our country today. So this was announced this week that the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association, they're going to work together, and the goal of the season restart will be to find ways to address racial and systemic racial inequality head on. So our platform in Orlando, we really will make sure that we strategize and figure out the best way to extend our fight towards racism. And that's one thing that I really love about working at the NBA is that we are always making improvements to not only the game, but for our employees as well. Um, so more to come on how the NBA and the Players Associations will work together to fight these issues, but I'm really confident that the NBA will come out on top and show everyone the change that we need to see. And then that concludes my presentation. I'm open to any questions.
Okay. Um, so my first question is, did you know in middle school that you wanted to have this career? Like, I know you were talking about like the science, like you did want to
Mm-hmm.
do the science, but were you thinking about the MBA or did it come to you in college?
So when I was in middle school, to be honest, I didn't know about all the different careers life had to offer. So I thought you could be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, police officer, the typical careers that we normally hear. Um, so I did not think that I would be working at the NBA. To me, I just thought that the NBA was sports related. If you love sports, then you work at the NBA. And now that I'm working at the NBA, I see that it's not about you loving sports. It's more about what you can bring to the table and your skills and your experiences.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. To follow up on that question, what did you wish you knew when you were our age, actually?
So I wish I knew a lot more. I wish life came with a manual, but it doesn't. So if there's one thing I wish I knew at your age is that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to try different experiences because a lot of the times we feel pressure that once we say we're going to be a doctor, we're going to be a doctor. Um, but it's okay to try different things. And when I was in middle school, I just stuck with science because I thought that's where I needed to go. But once you realize that
Mm-hmm.
different experiences in life will help you, go ahead and take that leap. If you want to try something new, I definitely would recommend and say, don't be scared. Find out what you really love while you're in middle school before you go ahead and get to college.
Thank you for the response.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. It doesn't matter who can answer first, but where do you want to see your career go with Converse and with the NBA?
Today, I'll let you take that first.
All right. Well, being that I literally just started with the NBA this year, I hope that I'll continue to be at the NBA for years to come, but I want to dibble and dabble in different departments. So I mentioned before that it's okay to learn more. And at the NBA, we have a huge HR department. So I hope that maybe I'll do training or more recruiting. But because there are so many different options at the NBA and it's such a great organization, I just see myself working in different departments and still learning more about myself.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think I'd echo that, Caleb, for Converse. I think Tanae is spot on. There's a lot of opportunities for brands and organizations like Converse and the NBA, not just in the different departments that you can jump into, but also the different areas of the world that you can travel to, right? So the NBA has a presence in other countries. Converse has a presence in other countries. We have an office in Amsterdam. We have offices in China. We have offices in in other parts of the globe. And the other cool thing about Converse is that we're actually a subsidy of Nike. So technically, I'm a Nike employee, which means I can also take advantage of the career opportunities at Nike. As I mentioned in my presentation, there are over 70,000 people employed within the Nike organization. And again, that's global. So there's Nike offices all around this country. There's Nike retail stores where you can get a taste of what it's like to be a Nike employee. And those are all opportunities that are open for people who are passionate about sport or passionate about the brand or just want to be a part of that story. So that's I want to continue to do what Tanea was talking about, which is try different things. We're still very young. Try things that might not work. Find out what you don't want to do, and then try something else. That's always a great strategy early in your life.
All right.
Thank you for the response. As I said earlier, is there anything I covered that y'all want to go over?
I think we got everything. I mean, especially on my side, I would definitely say just don't be scared. Collaborate, share your ideas, and gain experiences.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only other thing.
So another.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kayla. Go ahead, Kayla.
I was just gonna say the questions are from the chat are about to come in.
Okay.
We're gonna start reading those.
You want to start with this one? Okay. So this is a really good one to start with. So most people who know Converse know us for the Chuck Taylor, right? I think that's what most people. That was the original basketball shoe. It was the first basketball shoe back in the early 1900s. And what we did was we created a sneaker called the All-Star Pro BB. And what we did is, from a design standpoint, we wanted to design it so it looked very minimal and had some inspiration from that Chuck Taylor and the minimal design of Chuck Taylor, but that was much more comfortable. So the sneaker that we launched last year and that we've been dropping different colorways of, the All-Star Pro BB, is actually a very comfortable sneaker. It actually has a Nike React midsole, right? So we, being partners with Nike, can actually use Nike performance technology in our shoe. So it's as comfortable as any Nike shoe you would wear because it has that React midsole, and it's only two pieces. It's the midsole, and then it's the upper, that outer material. You can actually take the midsole right out and crumple up the upper and put it right in your pocket. That's how light and how flexible it is. So that shoe in particular is actually a very comfortable shoe compared to, Nike's not traditionally known, or Converse isn't traditionally known for our comfort for Chuck Taylor.
Thank you. Hope that answered this question or her question. How did Jordan impact on Converse?
That's a really good one. So this is probably from someone who got a chance to watch the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary that came out, which is really good. So if you guys watch that, you probably noticed that MJ did wear Converse actually during certain parts of his career through college, and so I think it's important. I think the best way to summarize Jordan's impact on Converse is actually Michael Jordan's impact on the game of basketball in general, right? So MJ completely changed the game of basketball. He turned it into a global phenomenon, right? So, and he was kind of this larger than life figure. He transcended the game itself, right? Where you had stars like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird before that, who were Converse athletes. Michael Jordan rose to a new level, and he started to really influence basketball culture. And he really started to get, people like when he did his advertisements with Spike Lee, and the Mars Blackman advertisements, things like that had never happened before. His impact on culture was immense, and that's really the piece of basketball that we want to tap into now as Converse. We want to connect with the photographers and the artists and the stylists and the musicians, the people who came to basketball because there's more to it than just what happens on the court. And I think MJ was a huge piece of that.
Another question is, what is your favorite part of human resources?
I think my favorite part of human resources would be recruiting. So I love engaging, talking with new hires, letting them know why they should work for the NBA and learning what they could bring to the NBA. I'm a very personal person and I love just engaging with people. So when you recruit, I do a lot of career fairs at schools. And it's just great to sit there and talk to students and see where they want to be and how I can help them.
Is basketball the best sport to you?
Is that a biased question? I don't know if I should answer that one.
Oh, I can answer that one, Caleb. The answer from my perspective is absolutely yes. I think it's so unique. I think it's incredibly important that anybody in the world can pick up a basketball. They don't even need a hoop. They don't need 4 other players. They just need to have a basketball in their hand and they can dribble and they can be a part of the game. And that doesn't happen. That might happen with soccer, might be the other sport where that happens, football in other parts of the world. But I think basketball has its own kind of poetry to it. That's why I coach basketball still too, is just because it's so fascinating to watch and to play. And it's poetry in motion. So I do think it's the best.
I know for me, I'm not a basketball fan. However, I do love watching basketball with my dad. That's one thing that allows us to get closer and learning about the game and getting excited about teams. So I love sports because it brings people together for sure.
That's a great one.
Thank you. Really good. Is there any other questions? And if there is questions, I think we can watch the video because I think it had audio.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we can just play